Hello, welcome to my bookshelf, and today I am super excited to share with you another book haul. I have a lot of books in here that I'm really excited to share with you, so let's just jump in. Now this first one, I have a lot of mixed feelings about right off the bat, so bear with me. It's Set A Watchman by Harper Lee. I would just like to say first and foremost that this is my first ever audiobook. I've never owned one before, so it's kind of exciting in that way. But I'm not exactly excited to own this book just because of all the things I've heard about it, especially with Atticus, which really breaks my heart because I absolutely loved him in To Kill a Mockingbird. But what really sealed the deal for me and made me want to get this is that one, it was $1, and two, it was performed by Reese Witherspoon, and I just love her as an actress. She is just amazing. And just as a person too, I just love her. And I've never heard her read a book before. I don't know if she ever has, but I just think it'll be such a really cool experience to hear Reese reading this book to me. I hope that that can kind of make up for the fact that the book itself might not be that great. It might actually dash my hopes and dreams of Atticus, but at least it'll be read by someone who is super talented. So I'm kind of excited on that regard, and also the cover is really beautiful. I always did admire the way it looked. It's just very unique and very aesthetically pleasing. Okay, so this next book that I picked up, I'm really excited to have in my collection, and that is Shouldn't You Be in School by Illumina, and this is the third book in All the Wrong Questions series. I didn't even realize that Illumina had written another series after a series of unfortunate events. This was complete news to me about a couple of months ago, and this book itself was published in 2014, so the first two were probably published a couple years before then, but I somehow completely missed the boat on this and didn't even realize it existed. So when I found this in my Goodwill, I just had to get it. I was a little disappointed that it wasn't the first or second one, but I'm hoping to eventually find them one day too, so I can actually read them. Because I personally refuse to read books out of order. It's one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to reading books. Or even just like watching TV shows. Like, I need to watch it from the beginning. I'm just weird that way. And I will just also like to say that I love this cover. It's really fun. And I just find it interesting that Illumina loves writing about arson. Not really sure what that is about, and I actually don't even know what this book is about. I'm assuming it's a detective novel of some kind, just based on the pictures here. But it honestly doesn't matter. I'm just excited to have this in my collection. Alright, so this next book I am extremely excited about, and it's actually one of the few books in here that I did not find at Goodwill. I just had to buy it off of Amazon, so here we go. That would be Illumina by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. Now, I'm sure you're all very well aware of this book series, but this is actually a trilogy. And I know that it's set in the future, but honestly, that's really all I know about the plot. I do know, however, and this was a huge selling point for me, that it's written in a unique way. So there's like IM conversations, text messages, confidential files, just any random thing they wanted to throw in here. It's just so unique, and I love the idea of a bookmaker being really creative with the way a book is made and written. So I'm really pumped about this. I just think it's super cool. And on top of it, that slides off really nice. And this dust jacket is made out of this like overhead projector material, if you ever had those in high school, which really just brings me back. And when you put this on, it really just kind of gives a more like textured look to the cover of this book, because you can see that the cover itself has writing all over it, just like the inside of this book. And I love that the cover matches what you find inside. I just think that is super cool. So I'm excited to finally have this in my collection, and I do hope to read it soon. Probably in my next TBR, but we'll see. Alright, so the next book is a bit different because it's a biography, and that is The Prison Angel, Mother Antonia's Life of Service in a Mexican Jail by Mary Jordan and Kevin Sullivan. And I have never heard of Mother Antonia, but just reading a little bit on the back, I was really intrigued by her story. So she served 30 years in this Tijuana prison, serving inmates there. But even before that, and this is almost what's more interesting to me in a sense, because I never really get to hear much about religious sisters before they were religious sisters. And I think it's really cool that in her case, she was actually married with kids before she decided to become a religious sister. She was divorced twice, but she had kids. And I just think it's really interesting that she had 7 children and is now a religious sister. And I wonder what her kids think about her new vocation. I just have so many questions, and I'm really curious to see how that played out in her life. And I also just love the idea of this woman being in this Tijuana prison. It's such an uplifting story, so I'm really excited to read this at some point. The next book that I hauled is The Coincidence of Coconut Cake by Amy E. Reichert. Now this is a book where the cover really sold me on whether I wanted to get it or not. This happens a lot at Goodwill. I'm basically just hunting for any good finds I can get, and covers make a big difference for me, and I just love the cursive and the cake on here. I just think it's done in a really pretty and aesthetic way. So, and on top of that, it's set in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is where I'm from. I actually lived there for a while, so this definitely hits home for me. And I've never seen a book set in Wisconsin, at least that I'm aware of, so I'm really excited to hopefully know some of these places that these characters are at. I just think it'll be a more immersive experience. But this story is about a main character who's a chef, and she has this struggling restaurant. She decides to make coconut cake and give it to her fiance, and so she's heading into his apartment when she discovers her fiance with another woman. Pretty much worst thing ever. And so her life is kind of shattered at this point, and she doesn't know what to do. It's an interesting premise. It can go a lot of different ways, but the cover and the setting really just sold it for me. I am really curious to see what it's like. Okay, so this next book is going to require a little bit of explanation, but bear with me. And that is Thug Notes by Sparky Sweets, PhD. And if you're not aware, Thug Notes is this show on this YouTube channel called Wisecrack. And as I'm sure you can tell by the channel name, it's a very humorous show. It's just so funny. Basically, the premise is that we have our literary gangsta, Sparky Sweets, and he delves into classic literature. So he talks about, what the book is about. He gives us a synopsis in a very down-to-earth, real way, which is super hilarious. And then he just goes into literary analysis. So it's got this very humorous, but also very academic side to it. It's really fun, but really clever and very smart. And I highly recommend it. So I'm going to link one of their videos in the description below, so check that out. I really love this show on their channel. It's just a lot of fun, especially as a book reader. And this is basically just the book version of that. It's actually even written in the way that he would speak. And so he discusses 16 different books in here. Fahrenheit 451, which I should probably read because I just read that book. There's Hamlet, there's Romeo and Juliet, A Raisin in the Sun, Moby Dick, Lord of the Flies, Frankenstein, The Great Gatsby, Pride and Prejudice, To Kill a Mockingbird. I mean, just a lot of really classic literature, and it's just a lot of fun. I really love their channel, and so I like the fact that I can support them by having a book. And because I love books, it's really exciting to have books that are so unique and you won't find everywhere. So I love the fact that this book even exists. So I just had to get it. Okay, so the next book that I got is a little different as well, and that is Stories from a Moron, Real Stories Rejected by Real Magazines by Ed Broth. The foreword apparently is by Jerry Seinfeld, and I had never heard of this book before, but I was really excited by this idea. But basically, it gives you the short story, and then it gives you the rejection letter that he received because of it. I've never been brave enough to actually send in any of my work to a magazine, so I don't know what it's like to be rejected, and I really don't know how they handle that. I'm also curious to read these short stories as well. I mean, we'll see how bad they are or how surprisingly good they are. We'll find out. But I just thought this was a unique idea for a book, so I just had to get it. Alright, so the next book that I hauled is 13 Little Blue Envelopes by Maureen Johnson. This is a really fun premise. So basically, our main character, Ginny, she gets 13 little blue envelopes. So in the first envelope, there's $1,000 and instructions to buy a plane ticket. These envelopes just lead her on this awesome adventure. So I'm really excited to read this and kind of live vicariously through Ginny. But either way, I just think it's a really cute premise and I thought it would be a good book. Alright, so the next book that I got is Stolen by Lucy Christopher. And I honestly don't know that much about this book other than it's written in a unique way as well, which I really appreciate, and also just why I got it. I just love books that are written in unique ways, and this one is written as a letter from a victim to her captor. And that to me is a really interesting premise, and I'm sure very dark, terrifying premise. I mean, just the idea of being kidnapped. So I'm really interested to read a character who's going through that and to see what she would write to her captor. I'm assuming it's going to be a very interesting, thrilling book, but definitely a very dark story. It also has a medal, so I'm assuming that it's done pretty well. Alright, so the last book that I hauled is My Life Next Door by Huntley Fitzpatrick. Now, this is definitely not a book that I would typically pick up, but it was $1, so it makes the decision a lot easier on my part. From my understanding, it's a contemporary romance. The reason why I picked it up is because while it's a contemporary romance, it seems to be about a bit more than just the romance. The premise is that our main character, she doesn't have a very great home life, and so she looks for solace in her neighbor's house. And so she meets her neighbor, who's obviously this really cute guy, and he has an amazing family, and she just feels like really at home there. And so there's just definitely this dichotomy about her home life and this potential future life if she stays with this man. So it just sounds like a really cute premise, but also a very intriguing plotline underneath it, which really jumps out at me and makes me actually want to read it at some point. Alright, so that wraps up another book haul of mine. I had a lot of really amazing finds this time around. I'm really pumped to read some of these, so you might be seeing them on a future TBR sometime in the near future. I'm also really curious to hear what you think about these books, so just let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching this video, and until next time.